Watching Travis reminds me, boy, as print reporters, we've got it easy. As a broadcast reporter, even for radio or for TV or for broadcast for the web, your audio, when you're doing audio, you have to sound good, and you have to make sure that your source sounds good. When you're doing video, you have to look good, and you have to make sure that your source looks good too. As print reporters, we've got incredible flexibility. We can ask stupid questions, sound dumb, sound naive. We can ask for help. We can ask the source to repeat themselves. We can repeat things back to the source. We can let an angry source talk themselves out. We can take advantage of the fact that we're not being broadcast, and we can be embarrassed. We should use whatever tools we can, including embarrassing ourselves. It doesn't matter. You're taking notes. You're writing a story. You're not being videoed, or the audio is not being recorded. So take advantage of that. Here's some other tips from my experience about conducting interviews. First of all, get the names right. I suggested to you in class already, and I'll remind you, that misspelled names and improper titles can really crush your reputation with the readers and with your editor. So get the names right. How do you do that? I suggest you write the name in your notebook, have them spell it for you, and then show it to your source. Even repeating it back to them isn't good enough, because people will repeat back a name, it'll be misspelled, and then they will still say it's okay. So literally show it to them. Then continue. So get the names right. All right, now let's imagine that your interview is over. Well, it's not over. I think there are 3 things, based on my experience, 3 questions that you should end with. First, ask the source, is there anything that I didn't bring up that you can tell me? Is there anything else you want to say? Give an open-ended, anything else kind of question at the end. Give them a chance to get something off their chest. It might be related to this story, or it might not. It might turn into another story. So at the end, just open it wide open for them. Second one, ask them who else you should talk to. They're an expert on this topic, whether the topic is themselves or something else. So ask them who they would talk to on this topic. Ask them who else that you could talk to. Sources are one of your best places to get other sources. You don't have to use the sources they give you, but at least it's worth a try. Finally, ask them for their contact information. Now, you kind of had this already, but this time, ask them for their home phone, their cell phone, their email. That way you get it right there in your notes. But also, when you ask them, tell them that while you're writing your story, while you're preparing your story, you may have follow-up questions, and you're going to call them. Why do you do this? Why do you have to tell them that you're going to do this? Well, in my experience, one of the hardest things for young reporters, for any reporter really, to do is to be sitting back at the office or typing up the story and realize there's something that they didn't understand. There's something they're not sure about. And what should they do? Of course, at that point, you should call the source and go back over things. But it's embarrassing. It's a hard call to make. So by telling the source that you're going to be doing this, you've opened up that door for yourself. First of all, they won't be surprised when they get a call from you saying, hey, I want to just go over one more thing. And it'll be easier for you to make the call also. So far, all this advice involves interviews where the source is easy to approach, willing to talk, and probably not under a lot of emotional pressure. They're easier situations. But what if it's a difficult interview? Well, if it's difficult because the source is angry, but they're willing to talk, my advice is to just let them talk themselves out. Don't put yourself in a dangerous situation. If you think it might be a dangerous situation, arrange for a friend or somebody else to go with you, or a photographer perhaps, someone else to be there. But if we're just talking about someone who's emotional and angry, it's okay to let them talk themselves out. That's one of the advantages that you have over the video people, is that it's a lot harder for them to do this. Wait them out. What if it's difficult because it's a very emotional situation? If you're interviewing a mother whose son has just committed suicide, maybe a teen who's become disabled as a result of a drunk driving accident, maybe a son whose dad is being taken over by Alzheimer's disease, these are very emotional situations. How do you handle them? Well, first of all, you might ask yourself, or you might say to yourself, I'm not going to talk to people in those situations, or people in those situations wouldn't want to talk to me. That's not true. In emotional situations, people often do want to talk. Sure, the mom whose son has committed suicide isn't going to want to talk that day, but days or weeks later, she might actually want to talk to you. The person who's had a date rape experience isn't going to want to talk to you about it immediately afterwards, but weeks later, they may want to talk to you. Because why? Well, because their experience, they realize, is going to help other people. So if you say that to yourself that people in these situations don't want to talk to you, you're wrong. I'd say at least 50-50. Half the people you talk to in difficult emotional situations actually want to talk to you. Half the people you request interviews with. Think about it like this. When you're asking for an interview, you're not taking something away from somebody. You're offering something. What are you offering? You're giving them the opportunity to get their message out. That might be a message to help them understand the person who is now gone, who has died, for instance. Maybe so the community, who are their friends and family and everyone else around, will know what happened. Or more likely because this experience has triggered something in them that they want to try to change something. They want to try to help other people. So they're going to look forward to the possibility of getting their message out. Remember, they can always say no. So how do you get this kind of a difficult interview rolling? Well, in my experience, the best thing you can do is ask a practical, concrete kind of question to start out with before you really get into the difficult stuff. Try to get them talking on normal day-to-day sort of things. On the other hand, if you imagine the interview you think is going to become difficult but isn't at the beginning, because you have some tough questions that the person maybe is not expecting, of course you're going to save those questions for the end. But I have a video from somebody who's got more advice, maybe better advice on this topic. I want you to next watch a piece from Lane DeGregory. She's a Pulitzer Prize winning reporter from the Tampa Bay Times.